Hey, I just want to give you a few tips if you're looking to buy a new cordless tool platform. We'll talk about the pros and cons of a few of the most common sets that you can find at your local Home Depot. Each brand, I want to tell you, has a good, better, best kind of arrangement. And in other words, you can buy a Milwaukee that is best, better, or good. You can buy a Ridgid, which is a good, better, best. And they basically ditch their old models in some of their value packs of combo kits. And so just want to share some pros and cons. Some of the older tools are really good, and some of the older tools are kind of weak in different areas and features. So I'll start by sharing a few pros and cons of the different ones that I reviewed here, and we'll hopefully be able to get you some helpful tips if you're looking to upgrade your cordless tool platform. I'll start from my right to left here. This is the Ridgid Brushless as of February 2019. This is the highest end one. It claims 2,250 inch-pounds of torque, and this is their most expensive model. So if you're looking for the highest end Ridgid, it's their brushless, and it generally does not come in a big value combo kit like their previous model, which is the brushed model. The brushed model here comes with usually in a larger kit, and the one that's brushless, their higher end impact drivers usually come more individually or just with a drill. So all the kits generally are based on a impact driver and a drill, and then some of them add more tools with them. Usually when you're getting more tools, you're probably getting a lower quality impact driver and drill or hammer drill. So again, the brushless Ridgid is going to come here just with a hammer drill, but it's their highest end hammer drill and their highest end impact driver. If you go with the combo kit, it's going to come with, well, various items, but in many cases it'll come with your circular saw, flashlight, your drill, and a sawzall, reciprocating saw. It's a great kit. I'll go through the pros and cons kind of each one after I introduce the different combo kits. This Ryobi is this is Ryobi's highest end brushless, and if you want to see specific reviews on torque tests and different things that I've done with each of these units, you can tune into our other videos, and there's some really helpful stuff where I go into more detail with that. But this one here that I reviewed is the highest end Ridgid gun that I'm aware of. It's brushless. In the combo kit that I have here, it comes with now this is a 7-inch, 7 1/4, I'm sorry, full-size circular saw, as is the Ridgid, is a 7 1/4, and this one also comes with a brushless drill, and this circular saw is brushless as well. It did not come with a reciprocating saw on this kit. Moving on to the Milwaukee, this is the, I would say, kind of mid-grade Milwaukee, a consumer, prosumer kind of end thing, or it's a consumer end really for Milwaukee, but it's a pretty good quality impact driver. This one comes with a 6.5 inch circular saw. It comes with the flashlight, the drill, and the sawzall as well. I would say, as pros go for these ones, or pros and cons, these sawzalls that they come with now are pretty legit. For I had one 6 or 8 years ago, and it wouldn't even compare to these sawzalls. You can feel they're very heavy duty, and especially for a consumer end type of combo kit here. The last one that I reviewed here is the Milwaukee Fuel, which is the highest end Milwaukee. Whenever you see the Fuel with it, that's a brushless. This one here is not brushless, it's brushed. This one here came with a drill. This is the Fuel drill, and this is they call it a hacksaw. It's kind of a one-handed deal. So very, very, very nice tool here. It's just a little different, so it wasn't quite apples to apples across the board as far as what you're getting in the kit. But I would like to just share some pros and cons and kind of boil down to a conclusion. Again, if you want to see more specific tests that we did on these with a little more detail, just head-to-head in torque and lug nuts and different things that we did, tune into the other videos. But right now I just want to share some standout pros and cons with each different driver. This is just a small detail on the circular saws, but it's helpful because people have a preference. One is the Ryobi and Ridgid here have 7 1/4 inch circular saws. The Milwaukee had a 6 1/2. Just mainly the depth that it can cut's a little bit different. Performance-wise, I think the Milwaukee's better as far as power. It's a little bit of a higher end platform. The second best I would say is this Ridgid, and then the third best is this Ryobi. Although the Ryobi performed, especially for its price point, the Ryobi would be the least expensive here. The Ridgid would be the next up, and then the Milwaukee would be the more expensive cost-wise. The Ryobi was impressive, especially for the price point, but there is a detail with these circular saws that I think is worth noting, because some people have a preference, and you may not pay attention to this if you're just grabbing it off the shelf. Some of these saws have the blade on the left side, on the cutter side, and some of them have it on the right side, which is a little bit more standard. There's kind of pros and cons. If you're cutting on a board and it's on the right side, the majority of your weight is sitting on the board, so you can make a clean cut all the way through. Now you can't see the cut as well from the cutter's side, and the sawdust is going to tend to blow off the other way. This is a traditional circular saw style, where on the left side cut you're going to have probably more dust coming at you. And if you look when you're cutting here, if you're cutting, the majority of the weight is sitting on the side that you're cutting off. So what tends to happen is you may be cutting through, and the tendency is that as the piece breaks loose, if you're not holding it square and true, it may fall off to the side. It's just a matter of preference, but on these ones, the Milwaukee, which is a brushed version, has the left side cut. The Ryobi has the left side cut, brushless, and the Ridgid has the right side cut. So it's really just a matter of preference. Performance-wise on these, I would say the Milwaukee and the Ridgid were close. I would prefer the Milwaukee, although I prefer the right side cut on a circular saw. The Ridgid was not real far behind. It wasn't lacking. It's brushless, but just didn't have the feel of durability and quite as high of quality. The flashlights are kind of just a bonus thing. They're not that expensive to buy if you needed to buy them on the side. Like I said before, the Sawzalls are really exceptional, I think, for a combo kit. They throw them in here. I think they cost $100 to $150 if you were to buy these, as a tool only. Couple of other details. The Fuel, as far as speed and torque across the board, the Fuel outperformed by far, and you can see that in our tests. The Fuel was top dog. The Brushed Milwaukee with torque and everything else was pretty clear cut second. Surprisingly, this brushless Ryobi gun outperformed on several different occasions with torque power testing over the Ridgid guns. The Ridgid Brushless was better than the Brushed. Not a huge difference, but one of the benefits to note of the Brushed versus Brushless is how the battery interacts with the tool. And so the Brushless are significantly more efficient, and they deliver more power to the tool, especially with some of the newer batteries. I don't want to get too complicated into technicalities, but I just want to provide as many helpful pros and cons to your decision to purchase as I possibly can. So a couple other just feature things. The Ridgid guns have the 3 gears up here, or 3 speeds. Both of them have that, even the less expensive one. The Ryobi does not have the 3 different speeds. To be honest, I pretty much leave it on the 3rd speed all the time. There's a few situations where you might want a 2nd speed, so it's not a huge drawback, but it does not have it. And the Milwaukee here does not have the 3 speeds either in the brushed version. The brushless obviously is their primo version. It is going to have 3 speeds plus a 4th one that's used for if you're doing self-tapping screws. And I tested that, to be honest. It was okay. It wasn't really useful. I was screwing down some metal roofing, and I thought that would be a good feature. And honestly, it really I could take it or leave it. Yeah, that's the only one that has that. I thought maybe this one did, but I was mistaken. So that's a feature that the Milwaukee has, but again, I don't think it's that significant. One thing I found when I look at pros and cons, not just a one-off thing that's going to affect me once or twice in the lifetime of using the tool. I look at something that's going to affect me multiple times in a day or in a job. And the way that this Fuel accepts in the chuck there is, I like that. You can push it directly in and you can pull it directly out like that. If you look at the other ones, they don't do it like that. You have to pull this out here in order to insert the tips that you're using. So if you're switching out frequently throughout your job, it's nice to have where you can just pop it in there and it stays. Now, that was a standout pro. I would say a standout con, honestly, on these Ridgid guns. I do like them, and but a definite drawback is when see that one doesn't go in there. It doesn't just slide in. You have to pull it. You have to pull it to slide it in there. When you are running screws or you're using these Ridgid guns, both of them had this issue. For some reason, this guy, whatever you have in the gun, the chuck here, it sticks. And so I found myself, I had to like jiggle it and go in reverse and going forward and try to get it loose. Somehow there's something that jams in this. Oh wait, this one actually does pop in the same way that one does. That's nice. I didn't recognize that before. Okay, so there's a set thing there. If you set it, you pull it out and then it pops back in. So that's nice. But again, the drawback on this, or the thing that I'm pointing out, is that these would get stuck. They would jam, and I had to jiggle it and before it would pop back out. So that was something I did not like about the Ridgid guns. The Ryobi's pretty basic. It does not pop in the way that the other ones do, and you can't set it the way that one did either. This is how that works there. See, it won't pop in, but if you set it by pulling it out, it'll pop in. So that's a nice feature, but on the other side, I did not like that these ones jammed. Power and torque wise, I think we went over that. The speed, the fuel gun blew them away on speed. Aside from the fuel gun, which was heads and shoulders above the others in pretty much everything, the rest of them were really close on speed, so I don't feel like that's a major point. The batteries is a huge thing, really. As they are making advancements in batteries, they're offering batteries that last longer, batteries that give more power, and they're charging a lot of money for the batteries. So when you buy the combo kit, sometimes you might find one that's like, hey, this is a super nice kit, but it comes with these bum batteries that are like old. They go by AH, they say amp hour, so you'll have like a 2 amp hour, a 4 amp hour, a 6 amp hour. And so, for example, in these sets, the Ryobi, they give you one of their better batteries. It's only a 3 amp hour battery, but it's one of their higher power batteries, their newer ones. And with the Ridgid sets, they don't give you their newer kind of batteries, but they're 4 amp hour batteries. So there's a lot of kind of give and take with these, that you just kind of have to measure what you really want and what you're really going to use the tool for. But the batteries is definitely a thing to look for when you're buying the combo kits, looking at what are the cost of batteries in the future. The Ryobi tools have a pretty inexpensive battery options. They're pretty cheap, actually. Ridgid's pretty reasonable with their batteries. Milwaukee likes their batteries, but they're really good quality. I found that they last a long time, and even this one that comes with, this set here comes with 2 3 amp hour batteries. They will last as long as this Ridgid set that comes with 4 amp hour batteries. And so, yeah, as far as quality and batteries, you know, it's kind of a trade-off there, and it's very difficult to do tests that precisely reflect exactly how long a battery lasts or how well a battery performs. So yeah, the on the batteries, before we go into a conclusion here, this fuel set only came with a few tools, but it came with very good batteries. It came with a 5 amp hour battery, and then it came with a 6 amp hour battery, which is their higher output battery. So if you look at it, it might look like, oh, you're paying $400, for example. This is $400. It comes with a nice hard case pack out, and it comes with only 3 tools. But the batteries alone, if you were to buy them separate, would be over $200. The value is there for somebody who is going to use this every day and going to need the power and the torque of the highest end guns, and you know, the ease and the convenience of different things. Small thing, but it's, you know, it's a little bit shorter to get into tighter spaces, things like that. So if you got the money and you can spring for it, it's nice to have, but honestly, it's not necessary. These other kits are they're going to be more than sufficient for most people, especially if you're not on the pro side. This Milwaukee set comes with a cloth bag. It's a pretty good quality bag. I would say this is kind of a consumer end for Milwaukee, but Milwaukee's really good quality, so you're going to get some kind of prosumer features with it. This particular kit came with some nice tools. And the batteries are good quality, but they're not Milwaukee's best quality batteries. This is only a 3 AH battery. It did come with 2 of them. But again, you're going to get the tools, and then later down the road, you're probably going to say, hey, I need a higher power battery or a longer battery, you know, one of their 5 or 6 AH batteries. The Ryobi, it comes with a cloth bag as well, but this bag, you can tell it's not as good a quality as the other ones. It's kind of just, it's a little chintzy. But for a consumer, you're going to use this a couple times a week, a few times a month maybe, on a Saturday project or whatever. You're probably going to be satisfied with this. And honestly, the performance of this brushless Ryobi gun, in you can watch our other videos, but in several of the tests, it did better than even these Ridgid guns. So I was really impressed with it. I think it's a good buy for the price point. Again, the tools, there's a lot of tools that Ryobi makes too that are fairly inexpensive. You're not using them all the time. I wouldn't probably take this to a job and use it every day, all day. I build houses and I have a sawmill. We run a sawmill here, so the tools that I have, usually there's multiple people using them and they're being used daily. So I was impressed with this one and its performance. I don't know long-term durability, but again, for the price point, I think it's a very good buy. Nothing wrong with it. And I would say probably 90% of applications that you're going to do as a consumer or prosumer, this impact driver and this platform is probably going to be sufficient for you. The Ridgid sets, again, I already went through what they come with. The batteries on these ones, this is the kit where they give you a lot of tools, but they kind of give you their lower end batteries. It's a good buy. The biggest pro for the Ridgid, I would say, and I need to emphasize this, is if you, and it is an if, because you need to register them when you buy them, but Ridgid has an exceptional warranty program. When you buy these combo kits, not only do they warranty the tools for life, but they warranty the batteries as well. So if you ever need a new battery, if a tool ever goes bad, anything happens with it, you can send it to them. Our local Home Depot does it. You can swap it out right there. It usually takes a little bit of time, maybe a couple of weeks to swap it out, but it's really nice. It's a very big value point for the Ridgid products, but remember, you need to register it, because if you don't, they may not stand behind it. That's one of the biggest points on the Ridgid guns. I was actually surprised and a little disappointed of the performance of the Ridgid stuff, that it didn't blow away. I was expecting their brushless gun and tools to outdo Ryobi and even the brushed Milwaukee. That was what I was thinking, but in our tests, that's not necessarily how it panned out. So though they claim 2,225 inch-pounds of torque on this brushless gun, this Milwaukee Brushed gun that only claims, I think, 1,500 or 1,700 inch-pounds of torque was able to crack nuts that the Ridgid Brushless was not able to. And so if torque and power is important to you, and on the performance side, I was a little disappointed on the Ridgid in the actual test. So not take anything away from them. There's a lot of good features. They are, like I said, the warranty is really the big selling point for Ridgid. The fact that they claimed one thing on the torque and they weren't able to do what the other gun over here that claimed significantly less inch-pounds of torque was able to do was a little bit disappointing. So I would say, in conclusion, know what you're buying it for. Are you going to use it a few times a month? Realistically, are you going to use it every day, all day? And I think that would dictate kind of your price point and what's worth investing in. So I hope that this review has been helpful to you.